by focusing on the exact motivation in your life and by looking for the development, looking for the continuous development and the areas where you can improve yourself in parallel to your aspirations, not only just because it was required. Doing it with the perception of a strategy, well, in case you're focusing on the need there, don't lose your focus. Or in case you're focusing on the career growth, in case it's your purpose, then don't lose the purpose. You choose that area and don't stop focusing on that area. It'll be a better journey ahead as well for you.
So our featured speaker today is the brand manager at Sanofi Genzyme for the Turkey, Iran, and Levant markets, specializing in rare diseases, and a 2021 graduate of the MIT Leadership and Innovation Bootcamp. Selen, it's a great pleasure to have you as our featured guest today. Thank you so much for being willing to share your journey with us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me and having me.
On behalf of everyone, we really are excited to speak with you. And I was actually wondering if, you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of background, telling us about some of your experiences growing up, what you feel are some of your early life influences as far as events or mentors that you think really kind of shaped you as a person. Was there anything particular that helped you decide what choices to make in your career or otherwise?
So, hello again, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be right in front of you. And I really hope that every one of you will be meeting with your own journeys, which will be very unique to yours. Here is some memories from mine. Well, during the educational years, I have studied in a French high school, and then I took some education from an American university. So, as a girl who is living in Turkey, so there during my journey, I had chance to gather many cultural aspects and learn from many various cultures all around the world. And then I had chance to live in Spain and so forth. During all of the journeys, discovered about myself that I love to discover new things. And it would be a pleasure in case it would be me who can come up with the solutions to brand new problems that people just can't live with that anymore. I recognize that in terms of, let's say, industry wise, while choosing an occupation in life, I realized that pharmaceutical industry is one of those. And this is an environment that can actually help me to support brand new innovational journeys that will actually open many new doors in people's lives. Well, imagine you come up with very new treatment options that which people actually don't know that can exist in life. And you see those brand new families, you see their faces during the clinical trials and so forth, their journeys, you'll learn a lot of from them. I recognized that, okay, there is such kind of an industry and I want to be a part of it by joining in an internship program. And then I had chance to join in one of those pharmaceutical industries, and this was one of the most innovative one in the world, and I was a lucky girl at those times. And then that decision, how did I meet with the pharmaceutical industry? Well, two of my parents are pharmacists. Additional to their lives in general, I had chance to have many advices from my professors, who are also working in universities in USA and in Silicon Valley and in other universities in Europe. So they had chance to contribute to my journeys with their brand brilliant advice. And once I joined in an internship, I decided that yes, I want to stay in here, but how can I be a part of the innovational part? There, I recognize that there's two options. One is that you can be a part of the clinical part, and the second one is that you can support the patient side, but not directly, surely indirectly, as I can create brand new projects that support their lives that can only be in the marketing department. Well, then I had chance to find some positions in those departments as well. First, I worked in the field force. There I saw the clinics, their conditions, how can you support them. And then I had chance to take the control and the sponsorship side by being a part of the product management side. So here I am.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. My girlfriend actually also works in the pharmaceutical industry in medcoms, and she gives me quite a strong impression that different countries operate differently, and there's a lot of regulations about, what you can and what you can't say, sort of thing. Can you talk about your experience working as a brand manager at a pharmaceutical firm for the Turkey, Iran, and Levant markets? How is it different between the different countries? Is there a lot of complexity, or is it quite similar between them?
I can honestly say that there is, let's say, positive correlation with wealth level of countries and the complexity of the markets. So I saw some of the markets are struggling with very primary level issues. And then throughout the years, I recognized that even the, let's say, way more developed countries are now starting to have such kind of struggles in their pharmaceutical industries. This is mainly due to the, budget constraints and the level of investment that country in terms of both the clinical wise and the political side wise, they have decided to spend and invest on all of the innovational side. Unfortunately, as the population is growing, for let's say the support level per capita is quite like started to decrease, let's say in all of the countries, but each country has very different struggles. For example, while one of them is having a supply issue, the other one can have R&D issue because imagine a country where you can develop none of the innovative products. And whereas in some of the countries, the problem is just, a reimbursement issue. Like, let's say, as a person, you may not be able to support all of the treatment options in the market, but as the other country is having way more, urgent issues for their very primary level diseases. So this is quite different. This is never, ever is, let's say, equal to each other. So problems are, let's say, highly different in case you have chance to see them. Let's say all of those.
Thanks for highlighting that. Great way to ask that question, Spencer, because as a global community, we're constantly kind of thinking about how things work in different parts of the world. I was even, more specifically, I know Spencer kind of put it in the question that he posted, adding on to that a little bit, like I know access to healthcare and medical insurance to pay for pharmaceutical therapies are handled really differently in different parts of the world. And I was curious, does that affect the way that you approach those markets as a brand manager at all?
Sure, because you have to be somehow aware of all of the cultural and notion-wise aspects in case you are working with various, let's say, countries. For example, you have to also be aware of the organizational structure because in case, for example, a country's structure has just changed, in terms of the organizational chart and so forth, then you have to be aware of their current psychological approach. Or in case a country is very developed in terms of various problems they might be never suffering from all of the other countries can be suffering from, then you should be approaching with a bit more lighter approach because let's say their expectation might be a bit more qualification side whereas the other one's expectation is a bit more, let's say, emotional side. This is nothing like specific to a pharmaceutical industry, I think, but this is rather a bit more specific to cultural, let's say, organizational approach. But what is specific to pharmaceutical industry is that what is the current patient's treat? Are they really struggling from very basic needs, or is it urgent, or is it a bit more qualification side need? Then the approach changes.
I see. Thank you so much. So you work in particularly the rare diseases area. Are there particular obstacles with that? My concern with rare diseases, that area of work, I've always thought the number of people suffering from those diseases tends to be smaller, so it's harder to get funding. Are there factors like that that are obstacles, or what's your perspective on that?
Just one word, it's awareness, because it's never the priority in none of the clinics, let's say in all around the world. None of the educational platform for medicine purposes is, prioritizing the rare diseases or putting it in focus because of the number of the people affected. Sure, It's very understandable, but once you are working in with such kind of priority, then it is your job to increase the awareness level, and it is your job before the awareness level to attract people, their attention. Tell them and convince them that it is really urgent and those patients are really expecting their need. There are a lot of patients who are in need, so also the resources are limited. So that's why it is not always easy to increase.
Yeah, that is, I think, a challenge in anything that is more niche, if you feel like that term applies. So I can appreciate probably some of what you've had to do to overcome those challenges. So what do you find to be, the most exciting part of this work and, going outside your current role too? Because I know you had like a 5-year relationship with another pharmaceutical firm before this too.
In terms of the experience level, you just a pinch in a crowd, but still you are trying with all of the resources you have in hand to support those patients. So it's just you're a part of a big picture always, but now you have some kind of sponsorship materials. So it's always important to be the right strategic person to put the right prioritization just for the patients. So yes, you can feel like you have some kind of power which can maybe slightly affect some patients, but still it's a team game. So for a country, it's very important for their pharmaceutical industry to be working in one strategy as a whole, maybe under some shelter with the same purpose, and it's just improve patients' lives.
That's awesome. And I think having that as a motivator must be very exciting and very interesting for you. Knowing like you're directly improving these people's lives is such a powerful factor in your life. That's something that I personally really strive to find in the work that I do in my life as well. I think it's incredible.
I must edit that part. It's always indirect, not direct, but still you're some kind of a part of a big game. So it's always very motivational. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Now, was there a time where you've had a major pivot or deviation from your plan? And how did you go about that? Were there any things that you'd change about your approach in that sort of scenario?
Of all the journey in months, the part I could maybe would be that during the university, I had chance to study all the years in it. Like it's a matter which is always very contributional. You can, let's say, you become a part of another culture, and strongly believe that it's always affects who you are, and it's always develops nothing. It never takes something out of you, but it always adds. So I think that what would be the pivotal point that I could change, because rather than going abroad, I decided to stay in Turkey. So I think that would be something else. But then during the university years, I had chance to go around, during summer, and then in some of the semesters I spent some of them in another country. But going one place, let's say, somehow forgetting about all of your local culture is always very impactful. And I think this is the thing that I always chose in all of my pivotal points. So even doing it for the university would be very valuable for my own journey. This is what I believe.
I think it's a powerful perspective, and perspective is a big part of our growth, I think, too. So, kind of changing topics a little bit, I was wondering, personally, what prompted your interest in attending the MIT Bootcamp program? And have you found any of the tools from the disciplined entrepreneurship framework particularly useful to you still?
Again, this is nothing uh, I always wanted to be part of these MIT boot camps, and as this is leadership and innovation, it was always in my interest, because well, I'm working as a marketeer, and we are trying to innovate for the parts where we never did each year from the beginning, from scratch, and we try to do something different than the previous year. Well, I believe that it'll help my journey in marketing, and it strongly did. Where did it help? First of all, there might be some kind of blindness in your proficiency wherever you are. And I believe that it helped me to think from a bit more, let's say, differently, because there was other areas where you can focus. As you are in a team, you are working with very brand new minds, and yeah, it's very valuable to see the need, focus on the need rather than doing something just for doing. Also, I think it is very important for a mind develop itself from the point A to B, because it's a journey and sometimes you just invest and you just initiate a project, aim for something, and then during the journey you might forget some purposes or you might get used to it and then forget its strategic point. And I think it was very important to see a need is born and then reach into its very original need. So I think in terms of the journey and the brand new perceptions that I meet, it was very impactful.
I absolutely agree with that. I found getting those different perspectives, talking to other people and hearing about their journey to be such a powerful factor for me. And I feel like for me that's helped me a great deal in a lot of the things that I do.
Hi there. If you're enjoying this podcast, would you mind leaving us a review, a like, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform? Thanks so much. That really helps our reach. The Founders Voyage podcast is now proudly sponsored by VidOps. Kane at VidOps has been taking care of our editing since early 2024. He works efficiently, and I'm sure you'll agree that he does a great job. Thank you to VidOps for helping bring this podcast to life. If you want the same great support we're getting for your podcast, or you need help with video, photography, or animation, you can get 10% off at vidops.io using our referral code Voyage. That's vidops.io, referral code Voyage. Now back to the show.
This question is a little bit of a shift in focus to more sort of the question is, how do you balance your work, family life, and everything else that you're passionate about?
I'm almost sure it's never easy in none of the industries in all around the world. But after changing the company, I realized that it was even more of a struggle. What I did was to prioritize. Okay, it's a fancy word to use. By prioritizing, I mean even by including your personal life, because sometimes some of the very main projects that you actually prioritize in your journey is not highly important as your personal one. Put all the points, put all the things that in mind all together and then prioritize not only for your business life or not only specific to your personal life. This was very important. But then I realized, yes, I prioritize, but things are coming and coming. Well, there, I think you have to raise your hand and say, I'm just one person who wants to leave a great impact in all of the important stuff I think is important without reacting and stopping some of the less important stuff and without prioritizing. You can never leave that strong impact that you actually strive to. Well, I think this was the two things that I did. And I'm very, very, very better. I'm totally improved. And as this was a very fancy word, I actually didn't imagine my life changing this much because in all of my journey, I was a person who put the, let's say, career stuff in front. And now I'm even more joyful and lifeful. So I think I could suggest that to everyone.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, honestly, I think the work-life balance is something that we're all trying to continue to work to get better at. So I really appreciate your perspective too. And you kind of talked about this already, but I was wondering, as a female who's extremely passionate about her career and the people that she serves, I can tell. Do you feel that there are obstacles that you've had to work through that are unique to females in this career market?
Not specific to female or male side, but there is always struggles. First of all, in case your position is changing or in case something brand new is coming up in your journey, like again, very indifferently of the industry where you are in, it's always the case. But specific to pharmaceutical side, well, I think this is my personal idea, but I think it's not always easy to gather all of the people from around, impact them for two purposes. Doing this all together is not always easy. To impact patients' lives, also to leave a business impact, because none of them can stand without the business impact. You have to always show that. But once you want something very badly and you truly believe in that, it's not always easy to show that with that. Well, I think that's the main struggle in pharmaceutical industry because always everything is for the good of the medicine, for the good of the patients, and for very humanistic improvements. But while things are just for them, while you are trying to develop for them, you have to always show its strategic impact for the business as well. I think gathering these two together is not always easy. Well, always the struggles are coming up once you're a marketer from that side.
I see. Thank you. I think it's interesting hearing about the different struggles in different industries, and I definitely understand a lot of what you've said. Now, you're in a management position or a leadership position, and that's something that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about recently, how to be a good leader and what characteristics that actually takes. In your opinion, what are the characteristics of a successful leader, and how do you think we can work on those skills, if that makes sense?
I'm not the most experienced leader in the world, but I will use two perceptions. One is as a manager, and one is as a people who is being managed. In terms of the boost that you actually want in your life, in your career journey, your manager could be supportive. And how can the person support is by including all of the members in the team, by leaving none of them behind, by differentiating none of them, and by boosting the culture, boosting the spirit of togetherness totally. Because it's not always easy for someone to not to prioritize, never, because we are human. And it's not always easy for a person to solve all of the problems in between the team that is taking place, that are taking place. So I think bringing that culture and actually making them feel that togetherness, and at the end of all of the struggles, in case they are feeling yes, but we are a team. Anything can happen in between the team, but outside we are just one team, and there can be nothing important than supporting each other's development. Well, I think that spirit is really hard to create. The second thing is that I think could be to actually wonder in them. It's always about leadership. How can be the best leader? How can I be the best leader? How can I develop myself as a best leader? In case you really wonder your team, who that person is, what is the struggle that is taking place in their lives, what is the actual motivator that is in front of them. I think the person, the employee, is feeling what the manager thinks, if they actually care or not. So I think first one could be the inclusiveness, and the second one would be the actual care for a leader. Well, to develop that, it's not always easy because I don't believe that a person is coming to this world with the leadership skills. In case, well, you had to develop in your previous journeys because of some struggles, yes, you might be a lucky one. But in case you're now practicing in your journey as this is the right time, but the first time, then I actually suggest nothing more than to actually wonder and practice.
I really appreciate that. And I feel like part of what you're describing without actually using this word is leading with humility, and showing that you're a person that, has had these fears and had these, missteps yourself. So I really appreciate that. It seems like you've given a lot of thought to, what it is to be a good leader. So how do you personally, I mean, I say personally, but like personally and professionally, how do you stay motivated yourself? How do you stay going and growing?
I'm one of the luckiest people because this was always my motivation. My motivation has always been the development, but I don't want to coming up with the all the boring words. But I think what is important is that in case you want to reach something, then it would be a good suggestion to actually do it in your daily life. For example, I was very motivated to be a leader, and even now I'm managing my peers, managing my personal life, managing my loved ones, my friends, and my family, even my dog. In case you manage your time, you can manage anything. Well, in case you start to do that, and in case you see your struggling parts, in case you see, yes, you're not that ready. Okay, so let's focus on some aspects. In case, even in case you realize the parts where you should be focusing on without doing anything. Even that's a start. Well, in case you want the development in your life, see the little parts where you can practice and start doing them even today. I think this is what I did in my life as well. Even though when I know the final point is not very close, well, it's not always very motivating. But okay, I'll do it myself in my personal life. It was a very motivative stuff I did, I think, in my life.
Thank you very much. I think that's very good advice. Deciding what you want to do and actually starting today and pushing forward today instead of being like, that's something I'm going to do when I get to that point is a very good point. We've talked about a lot about your history, what you've done in the past. We've talked a lot about what you're doing now. What I'd like to get an understanding of from your perspective, 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, what do you see as success there if you were there looking back? How would you evaluate how you succeeded and what would you be looking to be like at that point?
Every industry is changing. Before in pharmaceutical industry, the aspiration would be to grow in vertically, but now it's becoming even more in terms of horizontally. I think I will be adapting the change, whatever comes up, in case I find it logical and useful and convenient for myself, then I'll be following the change. And the second thing will be that I'll be asking for more development. How can I develop myself in a very different part? I will be focusing on that.
That makes a lot of sense. Can I ask a little more specifically for you, if you feel comfortable sharing what, career development means for you? Do you have goals for yourself that you'd want to share or
The reason why I answer with the vertical and horizontal side, I will always be trying to increase what I already do. Will try to improve what I already do. So this is the reason why I'd like to, grow where I'm managing. Even sometimes it is somewhere else different in terms of the department. Well, I would also be looking to develop that as well. I think personally, I find the access part is very important to have some kind of specialty because in every country it's becoming even more struggling. Well, maybe in case people who are looking for positions in pharmaceutical industry, it can be something important to share. And this can be an area where I also can focus in my personal career journey.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Given the position or the industry that you're in, I imagine it's been quite a wild ride in regards to the last few years with the pandemic. Did you find that there were difficulties and silver linings, or how did you experience the pandemic in your industry?
I think in pandemic there was a perception that every pharmaceutical area has been affected in the good way, because there was a need for the medicines and every part has been affected in good way. I think this is not the case. For example, even the area where I work in, it's not the same for every product or for every disease area. We are working under the shelter of rare diseases. So in terms of, the impact, it's at some parts, yeah, the demand has been increased, but in some parts the demand has been decreased. And even when the demand was increasing, in case you are a company, for example, who cannot manage the need or manage the change because you weren't expecting the pandemic, surely, well, in case you're not managing it good, then okay, you are a part which is affected in a bad way as well. So it was, I think, for the pharmaceutical industry in overall, it's not always easy to say just one word for showing the impact. It can be either good or bad. But for the management part, well, the parts who could manage the change was always being affected in good way, surely.
I really appreciate you sharing that. Just so you know, I don't know if we led with this, but there's no right or wrong answer to any of these questions. They're all opinion, and I really appreciate your candidness and sharing your experience with us. What do you feel, has been kind of the common thread, if you feel like there is some sort of common philosophy that you have held on to throughout the course of your professional career that's helped you? Do you feel like you have anything like that that you kind of keep coming back to, a personal value?
Yeah, it's the need. It's focusing on the need because I think it's not only in pharmaceutical industry, but even in life, you forget the reason, forget the need. So I think it helped me in terms of, always focusing on the need and the impact. What's the need for me? What's the need for the results? I always come to that need that I had chance to learn from the bootcamp.
Thank you so much. And that's very well said. At the end of the day, we need to focus on the need that we're looking at, the problem that we're trying to solve. As an engineer myself, I definitely have a problem of focusing on the solution. As you say, you can sort of lose sight of what the problem you're actually solving is. But I think that's very, very good point you've said. Now, this is very much open to your interpretation, whatever sort of makes sense to you. But the question is, what do you think has been the best lesson or takeaway from your journey? Or said otherwise, what words of wisdom do you want to leave us with today?
Thank you. Well, as a last answer, I'd like to remind everyone that by focusing on the exact motivation in your life and by looking for the development, looking for the continuous development and the areas where you can improve yourself in parallel to your aspirations, not only just because it was required. Doing it with the perception of a strategy, well, in case you're focusing on the need there, don't lose your focus. Or in case you're focusing on the career growth, in case it's your purpose, then don't lose the purpose. You choose that area and don't stop focusing on that area. It'll be a better journey ahead as well for you.
Wisely stated. Selen, we really appreciate your thoughts and everything you shared with us today. Thank you, everyone else who joined. We really appreciate your perspectives and the energy that you bring to these discussions. Spencer and I and the team behind Founders Voyage feel very fortunate to be part of this community with you for almost 3 years and for the opportunity to bring you cooperative learning experiences like this each week. We'd love to hear your nominations too for other people that you think might benefit from this community. I feel like I have to say every now and then that we're a closed but open community in so much that those that are members can refer other members. And we'd also love to hear your nominations for future Saturday interview guests and session types. Thank you again, Selen, and thank you, everyone. And we hope that you have a great rest of your day and evening ahead.
Thanks, everyone, for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Celine. Have a lovely day, everyone.
Have a good one.
You've just finished another episode of Founders Voyage, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. The team at Founders Voyage wants to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed your time with us, and if so, please share this with someone else who might enjoy this podcast. You can also support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and by donating to our Patreon. Outro music today is Something for Nothing by Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band.